This idea that you're the best. Because you're not. I'm the best.
Oh, hi there. I'm sorry. I'm just really depressed right now because James Lewis has threatened to end my YouTube career, and you know, he's trying to get me off YouTube, and you know, I'm just so scared right now. You know, James Lewis, James Lewis. But then I remembered something. He's a Taekwondo practitioner. Boom! What's good, YouTube? This is Dion Smo from Smo's Modern Coon Arts, and the title of this video is I want to talk about the true meaning of mixed martial artists. What is a mixed martial artist? You know, you got a lot of keyboard warriors out here. You got a lot of bloggers, you know, washed up MMA fighters that have 1 or 2 fights, you know, lost all of them. They think they know what a mixed martial artist is, right? You know, and you know, I'll take it back into history, right? You go from the 30s all the way up until the 60s. You know, boxing was the main. You've never heard the word martial arts, but it was boxing. Boxing was the main, with hand-to-hand combat, the main key word for self-defense. From the 30s, the 1930s to the 60s, it was all boxing, right? And then the 70s, it was kung fu. Kung fu was the key word, you know, for self-defense, right? Then you go to the 80s and karate. Karate was the key word. And then you get into the 90s, the late 90s, and it's, you know, the late 90s, it's the kickboxing type, you know, no one really watched the UFC. You know, the UFC, of course, you had UFC 1 that started in the 90s, but the 90s was more of a, you know, the martial arts. It was the kickboxing type, you know what I mean? Then now you have, in this era, now it's MMA. MMA's the key word because of the UFC now, because it's so popular right now, right? What you got is these kids today that watch a UFC match with John Jones. You know, they go take one MMA class at their local gym, you know. Then you got these fat fucks behind a keyboard with the tap out shirt, you know. Fan of Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, you know, and they think they're some kind of MMA expert, you know. And I talked to a client today, man. He was 14 years old. And he's like, you know, he said, well, if I was to join your school, you know, what do you teach? I said, I'm a traditional martial artist, you know, and I gave him my, you know, the Wing Chun, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, Kyokushin, Karate, Gojo Ryo, and he said, well, that's cool, man, but I said, I only do MMA. And I thought to myself, I said, kid, do you realize that I am a mixed martial artist? Like, here's the thing, right? And the kid looked at me, he's like, well, you said you practice some Gojo Ryo. I don't know what Gojo, I've never even heard of that. Wing Chun, you know, wrestling. And what I'm going to explain to you guys and what I'm going to explain to this kid here, right? a mixed martial artist, right? Because that's what a MMA stands for. Mixed martial artist means you're a well-rounded fighter and self-defender, right? That means if I gotta knock this motherfucker out standing up, I can do it. If I can knock this dude out on the ground, I can do it. If I can knock this guy out in close quarters, I can do it, right? That's what Bruce Lee was, right? So I had to explain this kid. I said, listen, kid, I have a background in wrestling that's taking your opponent to the ground and submitting him. Well, I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, right? I said my stand-up. Stand-up is striking. Wing Chun, you know. Wing Chun boxing. Like I said, I'm 3-0 in amateur boxing, right? Could have went pro. What is, you got these YouTubers, they like to shit on traditional martial arts and just say, oh, MMA this. But they don't realize the true meaning of MMA. Bruce Lee was the definition of true MMA. He was 50 years behind his time, right? You know? Gene LaBelle, you know? You go back to even the caveman days in Egypt. Fucking, you know, they had their raw strength and their raw power. They also had, you know, they just had their fists, you know. But see, they knew their subconscious, you know, they could use their fists, standing up. Oh, I got these fists. Oh, I could knock someone out with these. But also, I could use my power, my grip strength, to take these guys to the ground and fucking, you know. Like, this shit goes beyond. That's all mixed martial arts is. Somebody with a striking and a stand-up. Or a striking and a ground game, right? What it is, it's like you got these YouTubers out here who think they know shit, and they like to they like to shit on the traditional martial arts, you know, kung fu, karate, you know, Wing Chun, and it's just sad to me, like, you know what I mean, because all a mixed martial artist is a striking game, striking attack, and a ground attack. That's all you need. That's what a mixed martial artist is. A regular martial artist, you spend 15 years in one style, you know. Like James Lewis. James Lewis has spent however old the dude is in Taekwondo. He's not a mixed martial artist, you know. I'll beat the shit. Yeah. I could. Alright, James, I'll leave you alone, buddy. Okay? But you and I know the truth. Anyway. But yeah, simply, and I told the kid, he said, well, you just brought enlightenment to me. He's like, you know, I don't really know Bruce Lee, but, you know, I know John Jones. I said, well, kid, do you know that I realized John Jones I told the kid, do you realize that John Jones borrows a lot of techniques from you know, Tiger style Kung Fu and Chole Foot, you know, with his striking. I said, did you know that his ground game is primarily wrestling? He said, I never thought about that because I just watched the pay-per-views. I said, well, that's why I'm here. So, to put it to you simple, an MMA fighter is you have a great striking attack and a great ground attack. So stop shitting on traditional martial arts. Alright, I'm in this video before